virtually is a bit challenging because it takes out some of the dimensions, shaking a hand, looking at someone. I think that the way to bridge that gap virtually is to create a two-way conversation.
Welcome to Virtually Live, the podcast. Every week, we'll get into the latest and greatest in marketing, and specifically event marketing, audience engagement, and brand experience. To guide us through that, we've invited event professionals and marketing leaders from various industries. In this week's episode, join Amit Bivas, VP B2B Marketing at Monday.com, as he talks to Kaltura's Director of Solution Architect Virtual Events, Tal Saig, about relationship marketing and how events and building a strong event strategy play into that. Let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Tal Saig, Director of Virtual Event Solutions at Kaltura, and I'm coming to you virtually live from Koh Phangan, Thailand. One of the tenets of good marketing is building customer relationships. Our guest today is Amit Bivas, VP of Enterprise Marketing at Monday.com. Amit is currently in charge of Monday's new B2B enterprise marketing strategy and will be sharing some insights on how creating meaningful events is absolutely key for building strong relationship with customers. Hey Amit, where are you joining us from?
Hey Tal, thanks for that amazing introduction. I'm coming to you live from virtually live from Tel Aviv, Israel, out of Monday.com's offices here.
And welcome aboard. So super glad to have you with us today. And first thing first, for those who are less familiar with the relationship marketing strategy, can you explain what it means in a nutshell?
Hopefully, marketers out there are very much familiar with this. And in a nutshell, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's looking at marketing to your customers as building relationships. The days of, if they ever existed, like a touch and go kind of marketing strategy are long gone, if they, again, ever existed. And the idea is that, every marketing touch point is part of a relationship building effort with your prospects, customers, generally with your market.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is relationship marketing an era in the evolution of retention marketing?
So I think, again, this isn't something that's new. Yes, it has changed like anything else in our lives in the course of the last, 10, 20 years. And if it's part of retention marketing, it wasn't like an evolution out of retention marketing. It's part of acquisition marketing. It's part of everything that also isn't necessarily marketing, part of your, product strategy. It's part of your, your business strategy. And I think that if you're looking for like the source of this, it's again, not necessarily the source, but all of the customer centricity approach. That's kind of what, promoted the importance of this kind of strategy. So yeah, again, it's a derivative of or a complementary strategy for a customer centricity setting.
And from the things you're saying, it sounds like relationship marketing could and maybe should be adopted by all type of businesses. What are your thoughts about this?
In my humble opinion, yes. But again, it's more than lip service. I mean, if you go out and ask business leaders out there, ask them, are you customer centric? I assess that the vast majority would say yes, we are. And the question is, are they genuinely customer centric? So I think that in my opinion, again, there's kind of this statement of there is no B2B or B2C marketing, there's B2H, business to humans. Now, I'm not a big believer in that statement because end of the day, the tactics and kind of go-tos are different between B2B and B2C, and there are, substantial differences. So relationship marketing is definitely an approach that every business should strive to perform and to adopt. If it's possible for every business or every type of business, probably not. But again, talking about that, B to H approach. So I'm not, a big fan of that statement. But end of the day, when you're trying to do business with someone, again, in a B2B setting, then it's a relationship, whether you like it or not, or whether it's, you can relate to this or not. End of the day, when you look at the marketing funnel, you start with awareness, consideration, all that stuff. It's a relationship. You can kind of compare it to, I don't know, so many things, but at end of the day, when you're going through the funnel, you're building a relationship, you're managing a relationship.
And what, in your opinion, can make the difference? So what makes a strong relationship marketing strategy? Is it having a data first mindset? Is it something else?
It's first and foremost having a customer centric mindset. Now, data is a big component of it, but not only. I mean, yes, you can look at the numbers, and that's super important. But end of the day, nothing replaces a sampling and speaking directly with your customers, with your prospects, hearing in first person, listening to conversations of your salespeople. Many times we miss on that. Data is, in marketing is in a way new, right? Like say 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have a lot of that. Yes, we did have some surveys that we were able to kind of look at as data. And, in the course of the last, again, 10 years, everything is measurable, right? But I think we took it maybe too much to that extent. Again, we have to measure everything, don't get me wrong, but we shouldn't neglect and shouldn't forget the importance of actually listening to our individual prospect or to the buyer committee there.
Eventually, relationship marketing, it's a big thing. And as you said, it's creating or being customer centric, having customer centric approach, make sure to listen to your customer sales and so on. Can I say that it encapsulates different marketing strategies like ABM, events, creative, and so on? So every part of the marketing department just have the relationship marketing in the back of their minds always?
So marketing, has always been and probably will always be a multidisciplinary practice, right? So in the context of B2B, so you have field marketing, you have digital marketing, you have ABM programs, as you mentioned, and so on and so forth. When we're looking at relationship marketing from a strategic level, that means that kind of that's, according to McKinsey, if I remember correctly, the strategy is the how. So how do you complement the business and, reach and generate the business results that you want to through your marketing? So if a strategy is relationship marketing, then all of the channels, all of the different marketing disciplines should align accordingly. So as an example, at events, make sure that you have, for example, a customer advisory board representing your customer base. Advise with them on how to build the agenda, what content is interesting for them, what are they expecting from the event. And again, it's a mix because obviously you have your business goals and you want to generate the value that you want from that event. But at the same time, you can definitely, practice a customer-centric approach and build those customer relationships through that event. Same goes for any other marketing channel or marketing discipline.
Were you able to reach to the level of engagement or customer centricity within a virtual event?
So that's the $1 million question. It is quite challenging because at the end of the day, if we're talking about relationships as kind of like that human interaction and, looking at the subject of your marketing as someone that you're creating relationships with. So virtually isn't a bit challenging because it takes out some of the dimensions, shaking a hand, looking at someone. I think that the way to bridge that gap virtually is to create a two-way conversation. And large-scale events that can be done through, different interactive features and capabilities, right? The likes of polls, taking questions from the audience, and so forth. What we saw that works really good when there wasn't any alternative to virtual events, talking about COVID times or the peak of COVID times, is smaller virtual events where you by definition can create a two-way conversation. Right. So if you're running a large event with hundreds or thousands of people, usually it's a one-way conversation. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that that's a wrong strategy, but you also need to have in your blend, in your mix, also those smaller settings where you are able to create a two-way conversation. not a monologue, but more so a dialogue. And when that happens, you're building a relationship. I mean, if you think about it, again, relationship in any context can't be a one-way conversation, can't be a one-way communication. You always need to get feedback and respond accordingly. That's kind of like the ping pong of relationship, so to speak. So you need to strive for, as much as possible, a two-way conversation, a two-way dialogue. And when we're looking at larger scale events, so maybe it's not a dialogue, but you do need to always get feedback from your audience, A, in order to keep them engaged, and B, in order to be able to adjust to their requirements and needs and kind of nuances that you can get from different capabilities in virtual events.
You joined Monday.com to design and lead their B2B efforts. And as we already know by now, you're an advocate for investing in relationship marketing. And this must have played a big part in how you plan those efforts. Can you speak to that context of relationship marketing and how you build your marketing strategy, new B2B strategy for Monday.com?
So I think for the most part, and I've been here for almost 6 months now. It's the first step in looking at marketing as relationship building is understanding who's the subject of your marketing. So a lot of kind of learning on who are the different personas that Monday resonates with. What resonates with them? What is kind of the pain that we're solving? What do these conversations look like? The amount of hours of sales calls that I've been listening to, could add up to, I wouldn't say months, but probably a few weeks. And understanding who is that a person from a business perspective, but not just that we're speaking with. Who are these people that that are? What are the pushbacks? Why won't they take Monday? Why do they love Monday? And once you have that, that's kind of like the foundation of what you need in order to, build and weave that kind of approach. Again, it all stems from a customer-centric. Put the customer, the prospect, in the middle of it all, and then build around that. With kind of that notion or that approach of, yes, we're managing a relationship. Yes, creating that two-directional conversation. It is challenging. At Monday, we're looking at an addressable market that is endless. Any human being on planet Earth, and if there's a life on Mars, could be using Monday for their personal or professional lives. So in an endless addressable market, that's even more challenging. But again, there's always like a common denominator. You're seeing, why people use Monday.com, and those are kind of that can help you stress that message in your messaging strategy, and then kind of like what helps, what value do you create for them? Creating the infrastructure to get feedback from the prospect and the customer, and usually that's something that's not only marketing but also all of the commercial side of the business, all of the revenue generating side of the business needs to be aligned with. So, collecting feedback from sales on what's the feedback that they get from customers. You always need to strive to get feedback, both from a data perspective and from an anecdotal perspective, to get those examples from the salespeople. So that's kind of like what I've been doing, for the first probably 60 days or a bit, understanding who's the subject of the marketing. And then based off of that, building and kind of harnessing the different marketing disciplines and channels in order to cater to that and create that kind of marketing experience or prospect experience for the prospect or the customer towards bringing them into an active sales cycle and partnering with them as a customer.
You held recently a big event at Monday.com, right? Was it part of your efforts to increase B2B? Is it leads or sales? It's general B2B plans?
We were speaking about relationships. I think that, having your, annual customer event is a big part of that relationship. Like in any relationship, there are peaks. And I think that, Elevate, our annual customer event. That, by the way, shout out to Kaltura for being the platform behind our online event there. So again, kind of that event is a peak in the relationship. Out of a few peaks, right? But it's that point of year where you're able to bring everyone to the table and kind of like share how we see the future of work in the context of Monday, and listen to our customers, see what they have to say, expose to them new products that we're planning to bring to market, where the company's going, what the company has done in the course of the last year. So I think it's if we're looking at building relationships with your customers, I think this is one of the peak moments there where you're able to bring a lot of like-minded people that use your offering and your product, in the context of the future of work in our case, and talk about strategies, thoughts, ideas, plans that we have around that is a peak moment. And the way that we built Elevate this year was, again, we didn't go for the hybrid event. So we had, an online event, but also around that, another three offline events, in-person events, in order, again, to create that kind of mix between, the large scale online event, which for the most part can't necessarily be a bi-directional conversation. So that as the virtual event, again, it was built and planned with, a lot of advice and feedback from our customers, but also having those smaller events in person to create that kind of bi-directional conversation with our prospects and customers.
Well, I think it for me, it sounds like you sleep, eat, breathe, think relationship marketing. That's amazing. And if I look at a bottom line, the purpose of it is just like any other marketing effort, bring in more leads to result with more sales. How do you align relationship marketing and specifically events with sales?
So again, if we're looking at the definition of strategy, and again, dumbing things down, it's the how, right? So we all know what we're here for, right? We're here to grow businesses. We're here to build a pipeline and win more deals in partnership with sales. The how is where these kind of things come into play. So when you're looking at at marketing as relationship building, so you understand that it's not a touch and go kind of engagement. You are starting a relationship from the awareness stage, and again, depending on which event we're talking about, but an event could be at the beginning of a relationship where you meet a prospect from a certain account for the first time. What is the impression that you want to leave there? And we all know that, the people that usually, if we're looking at, the trade shows of the world, so, the people that attend the booth for the most part are people from the business, from the sales org. So kind of like equipping them with what they need in order to treat that initial interaction with a prospective client as the initial interaction with someone you're building a relationship with. Now, let's manage this as a relationship, because we understand that the way people buy technology has changed, because we understand that we're all humans, and this is a long buying process. Let's treat it as a relationship. Now, not sure that needs to be on the table straightforward. Yes, we're managing a relationship with you, Mr. Prospect or business prospect, but definitely kind of building it that way across channels, across touch points, that it's part of a longer journey that is a relationship building and managing.
Incredible. Do you have any last words of wisdom that you want to share with our audience?
Last words of wisdom, talking about two-way conversations. Does anyone in the audience have any words of wisdom for me? Any feedback on this approach? Now, I think that end of the day, my words of wisdom is, many times trying to take a step back. All of us are tied into our day-to-day and doing things. Make sure you always have that time to take a step back and look more at the macro side of things. Are we, and the context of this specific conversation I'm having here with Tal, so are we managing relationships with our customers and prospects? What can we do to manage better relationships? And these kinds of questions that you're only able to answer genuinely when you take kind of like a step back, are for the most part answers that, if you're genuine with yourself and frank with yourself, many times they can derive a lot of actions that can create a lot of value and kind of needle moving changes. So not sure if that's words of wisdom, but just like a good tip that I got in my early days, that, take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and then dive back in. But make sure you don't forget to take that step back.
Anything that comes out of your mouth is wisdom, Mr. Bivas. And thank you so much for this lovely chat. I enjoyed, as always, hearing you, sharing your unique point of view and insights. And our audience, feel free to drop some questions in our chat or to reach out directly to Amit via his LinkedIn. I'm sure he'll be happy to respond back. Thank you and enjoy.
Tal and the Cultura team, thanks so much for having me. Hope I was able to generate some of value and have our audience get some takeaways. As always, big pleasure. For those of you that don't know, Tal and I have a history. We worked together way back, so always a huge pleasure to speak with you, and thanks again.
Thank you, Amit Bivas and Tal Tsaig, for joining us today, and thank you for tuning in. To give you a little taste of what's coming next week, here's 7 questions and events with Jamie Hunt, Vice President for University Communications and Chief Marketing Officer at Old Dominion University.
So 7 questions in 7 minutes is what we've got here. I don't know that I'll ask any follow-ons to this, but anyway, let's go ahead and have some fun with this, Jamie.
All right.
So I'm going to insert one that wasn't in the original list. I'm going to put it up front, but here's question number 8, and then I'll go back to number 1. So what's your favorite university mascot?
Oh, gosh. My favorite university mascot is Goldie Gopher, University of Minnesota. I was a Gopher before I was a Gopher, so I've got to root for Goldie.
Very good. Very good. Very good. All right. So as we sort of focus back to virtual events or marketing to prospective students, what's the one thing you want your attendees to get out of an event?
I really want attendees to walk away feeling engaged and feeling excited about the experience that they just had. I don't want them to feel like they just got information. I want them to feel like they were part of the event.
I love the distinction between information and engagement.
Yeah.
All right. Second question. So what's your favorite way to engage with audiences?
That's a very good question. I think I actually really like the side chats that can happen in a conversation where somebody's speaking and you can have sort of this back channel conversation. Those are my favorite ways to engage with people. And for that DJ dance party I mentioned earlier, that was happening throughout that DJ dance party and people requesting songs and being really hyped. So I really like that.
Great. So this is a fun one because there are no restrictions on this. Unlimited budget, anybody you want. Who's your dream keynote speaker?
Oh, gosh. I think I've got to go with Alan Stein, author of Sustain Your Game. I absolutely love his book, and I've gotten to know him a little bit through my podcast, and he's just a fantastic person. And I think he brings a level of energy and enthusiasm I would love to have at my event.
Very good. Thank you for that. So as we talk about virtual events again, so which trend in virtual events are you most looking forward to?
You're kind of stumping me. I think I'm wondering if there's opportunities for greater, what's the word am I looking for? Augmented reality experiences.
Okay.
Can we feel like people can take advantage of VR or something to feel like they're actually physically in a space? I think that's an interesting idea and concept.
No right or wrong answer there. So thank you. Let's see, what's an event marketing pitfall, and this is you offering advice, right, that people should watch out for?
I think the biggest thing is trying to slap something from one platform into another and just like trying to exactly replicate, for example, an in-person experience in an online environment. You have to start from scratch, start from what the technology is capable of and build from there.
And I think you're going to see a similar response out of many of the marketers at Virtually Live.
I'm sure.
So what is your go-to source for personal development information in terms of events and marketing? Where do you do your research? Where do you get your intel from?
To be perfectly honest, I often start with Twitter. I have a very big network on Twitter, and I start by asking folks there if they have recommendations, kind of ping my networks, ping my friends, try to get people to point me to things that they've read and seen, like crowdsource that information. I think there's nothing better than that.
So part of what we're hoping to accomplish is to help create community around marketers, and not just in education, but even more broadly. So as you consider that, a shout out to another professional that helped influence you, or that is your go-to person when you're looking for info, but who do you want to hold up as an example of someone that brought goodness into your profession?
Yeah, I would say that Terry Flannery, who is the author of How to Market a University, she has been doing this work for 30 some years. And she was one of those pioneers, one of those people who said this needs to be a lot more sophisticated than it was, and really has pushed our industry forward. And she has been just a great resource for me throughout the years, and I'm always happy to plug her.
Very good. Jamie Hunt, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you sharing your experiences and thoughts about marketing in higher education with the community at large. I look forward to seeing you in person next.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.